Thank you so much for
Mhm.
being on my channel today. I always love
Of
having you.
course. Oh, it's my pleasure to be here.
And for
Yeah.
setting up all the tech, my tech angel. Evan is my tech angel.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun if you enjoy it. So that's the secret, right? It kind of relates to the theme.
Yes, the secret sauce. So, Evan and I were talking because we talk a lot, actually, not just on YouTube. And we were like, what do people really like? What's the biggest thing in their way when they're getting their coaching practice going? And I think we pretty much came up with this question that people ask themselves silently or out loud, like, who am I to be coaching people because of all the things that are wrong with me or all the ways I'm not perfect yet or always looking at whatever it is the lack of. I'm not like that coach over there, that coach over there. Comparison. And then it just leaves you feeling a lot of times like a fraud, even though maybe you're not even aware of it. Sometimes you are aware of it, but I feel like it's such an important thing to talk about because of the fact that I think if we can understand where it comes from, I think you'll all agree, hopefully after we talk more about it, that that's actually not what the real issue is. That's actually not, that's the wrong question. But let's dive into it a little more, Evan.
Sure. And I find even people who have an experienced practice or have been doing this for a while, especially musicians, right, which I am. I mean, it's not like just because you have some success, you lose all sense of imposter syndrome. But there's such a fundamental worldview in the question of itself of who am I to be a coach? Who am I to offer a service to someone else? So, baked into that is the idea that I need to be at a certain level of success or accomplishment in order to be helpful to someone. And that's where it gets really sticky because it's thought of often and it's very, I think, systemic in our society. Right? The idea that I achieve a certain level of obvious greatness, then once I'm admired and people perceive me in a certain way, then I can now say, follow my steps, do what I did to be like me. And that's very I don't know what the word would be. I would say rampant in the kind of space coaching and doing emotional work and these types of things is there's still a bit of a celebrity. We're still a very celebrity culture in a lot of ways. So it's like, oh, that person is so awesome and they're so huge and successful. And how could I become that and then be a coach? Which is a completely different paradigm than I have a skill, I have some knowledge in a particular field. I can offer this to people and help them who are interested and just, not quite where I am at yet. So you could always be a coach to a younger person in some capacity, as one hypothetical example, right? Someone who's going through middle school and having a tough time, and you went through middle school. You don't have to be a genius in child psychology to potentially be very helpful to that child, even just to say, like, yeah, I went through that too. It kind of sucks. Here, you're not going to mind so much when you're older. Here's some things to think about, right? This is coaching in the sense that it is a service. It's something that's based on your current perspective, and it's something that you have a value to share rather than I have achieved a certain status and now I am worthy of calling myself coach. That's probably a particular view, just maybe because I've had that myself and I see it from other people. I know that's not the only perspective and the only blog people have around it, but it's an interesting one to start with, which is your very framework on what is it that I believe I need to be in order to offer this service.
Yeah, Evan, that's so true. It's the celebrity culture, the idea that you have to be a guru or you have to achieve some astronomical level of success in order to claim that you can help someone or that you're an expert or anything like that. I can tell you that the something that Do you ever hear something from someone years ago and it just sticks in your mind, you never forget it? And this is one that has stuck in my mind. I never forget it. And I have to tell myself still sometimes, is that Denise Duffield Thomas, look her up because she's awesome. One of the first coaches I ever had. And she said something like to the tune of like showing up every day and sharing is a really important part of being successful in business. And she was talking about how you don't have to be a master at something or an expert, but think of yourself as a contributor instead of I have to be an expert or a guru because you're contributing something. And what you have to contribute is unique because only you can contribute it because of your perspectives, your past life experiences, the unique journey you went through. No one no one can tell your story and have your perspective. So if you can shift that a little bit towards the idea of I'm a contributor rather than I'm trying to be some expert or guru, that makes a difference. At least it did for me.
Yeah, that's a huge distinction. And like I said, there is a guru type culture, but you don't have to pursue that in order to be helpful to people. If you're trying to become like the leading expert in your field, more power to you. It's just that you don't have to wait for that to have something of value to offer. And one of the things that was really important for me is to think about it simply as a skill that you can offer as a service. It's not a representation of you as an entire person and you have to be so exceptional in every possible way, right? The surgeon, when I broke my knee, I don't really care that he has all of his finances in order and his relationship at home might not be great and he might not have healed all his childhood trauma, but my knee is not in multiple pieces anymore. It's in one because of that guy. And that's what I needed from him. I didn't
Right?
need I didn't need him to be a master in all ways. He needed to be skilled and have skills in that particular arena. So a lot of it is really how you define what you do and the service you offer. And Nico and I talk about that a lot. It's something I've talked through. It's a conversation I have a lot. It's something I revisit. In fact, just before this, I saw one person's YouTube video. I'm like, oh, that's going to make me change something about like probably the tagline, maybe on all of my websites and everything. So it's an ongoing my website. I don't have hundreds of websites or something, but the idea of how you define what you do. Because if in your mind, coach equals I'm the guru genius of life, then yeah, you've set yourself up to be sort of unqualified. You're going to not quite measure up to the title. You've decided this is the prerequisite for me to be of value. But when you define what you do in relationship to what you can actually offer, for example, let's say you've done like a mindfulness training. You're a level whatever, level 2 mindfulness, like whatever they do in that world, right? You have certain skills that you can teach, even if your life isn't perfect. So someone in your community who's interested in learning, oh, I've heard about mindfulness. I need to be a little more present with my kids. You have skills and frameworks and some things that you can show them because you learned those skills and you can teach them. You don't have to be perfect at them yourself, right? Just like I could, if I quit playing bass tomorrow, I never touch the instrument again, I could be an incredible teacher for the rest of my life because of the like hours and hours and hours per day of dissecting all of this and breaking it down. I still have that information. I still know a lot of blind spots, a lot of things that could save a young student hundreds of hours of time. It's not really about me, and I am at this exceptional level of ability or capacity. It's defining, okay, I could definitely teach you about this instrument. And being clear, because someone who is a a graduate level classical bass player, I cannot offer coaching to. That's in my world. Now they could be the world's leading classical player who wants to learn jazz and that's not their thing. Suddenly, I'm a legitimate coach to someone who's like principal bass of the Met or something if they've never played a note of jazz in their life. And their level as a bass player is something I'll probably never achieve. So it's all in the definition. If you are clear, this is what I do. I can help teach you a walking bass line. I can teach you mindfulness. I can take you through an EFT tapping basic recipe on your issue, which can serve millions of people. They don't need, not everyone needs, okay, are you complex trauma? You know all the parts work. Are you IFS certified? Like, that's not a requirement to be helpful to someone.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And I actually wanted to go ahead and shift our conversation into this because I told everyone on my email list we were going to answer these three questions. So I want
Oh,
to make
yeah,
sure that
let's
I
do
do
it.
it. Let's do it. So the first question is, why does this question show up in your inner experience? Why are we questioning who am I to coach? And now there's a lot of different answers, but there are some common answers I think we can address. And I'm going to just start with saying that it all goes back to childhood, of course, and it goes back to your childhood experiences. And however it is you experienced, um, whether or not it was safe to, make mistakes, whether or not it was safe to be visible, whether or not it was safe um, to shine or to be able to express yourself freely. I mean, as you all know, many of you are here. Most of you are probably some kind of healer, practitioner, or coach already. So you already know that childhood trauma defines everything. But I think really specifically, this question in most of the clients that I have and in myself shows up because of the fact that if you had an experience in childhood in which you were kind of set up to fail, as in if you were parentified in childhood, if you took on the role of the caregiver, whether that was to your parents, a parent, or siblings, or whatever it was, that you took on so much responsibility before, when it wasn't your role, that then in adulthood, we're trying to show up as adults for other adults, and we're living from the childhood experience when we couldn't actually do it. Like, you never could have actually done what it was you were expected to do, or the role you even took on by default of emotionally taking care of adults when you're a child. It's not possible. So then here we are with all these skills and all these life experiences, and we really want to coach people. We want to make a difference in the world. And our adult self is like, yeah, I've got this. I got the skills, I got the certifications, I'm all set up. And the inner child is freaking out because the inner child's like, I can't, who am I? I can't do this. Because the experiences you had in childhood was that you were set up to fail because you never could have actually done what you were expected to do. So it leaves you with this sense of, what if I can't deliver? And that sounds adult, but it's most of the time it's not. It's coming from the child part that knows I actually can't deliver what I'm expected to deliver. And I found that to be one of the biggest reasons it can show up. Evan, do you have any other examples?
That's interesting the way you framed it. I like that a lot. Yeah, why does that question appear? Your system must be tagging something as this is a performance. This is some place where I'm now in evaluation mode. So I think if you've been evaluated a lot, perhaps in your family, like not necessarily something you would consider traumatic, but you were expected to perform at a high level. Everything was like you could be right or wrong. I've had a lot of clients where that's the case. And so taking on almost any task, especially putting yourself in a position where people could be looking to you, there is a framework of right, wrong, good, bad, acceptable, unacceptable. And you are now self referential. And am I that? Do I measure up? So I don't know that the question would arise without some form of my system sees this as a performance, as a way to succeed or fail, and a way that I'm going to be judged and evaluated. Otherwise, like most things, you would just do them. You know, you see a little kid who's free about something, they'll just go and run and play on the swing set. You know, if there's a lot of like, well, yeah, but am I really allowed to do that? Is it okay for me to do that? You'll see that pause, that hesitation, and that scanning. So I would say there has to be some version of that in order to be asking that question.
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I was saying about how the question itself, it's not the real question.
Right.
Because then what's the real question actually? Not who am I to coach, but what's the real question there?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's a worthy exercise in a way to look in and say, okay, what is behind that question? Because it's going to be more specific, right, for each person. Am I good enough to do this? Am I successful enough to do it? There's like a whole worldview behind whatever that is. Well, no one will listen to me, which there's certainly a backstory there, right? No one cares what I have to say. You've got
Yeah.
stuff to work through, process through, if that's the answer.
Yeah, there's a lot of I've heard a lot of them like um what if what if they get mad at me? What if they don't get the result they're looking for and they blame me and then they're mad and they want to attack me? I mean, that's just be honest, that's what sometimes it feels like in the body. That's the actual question. I can also hear some questions like, if, what if I actually succeed? Okay. If I did, then how would that affect my relationships? Like, who would be jealous of me? Who would it threaten? Who would I alienate? Who would not be able to relate to me anymore? How would my role change for someone else that would make them uncomfortable? How would it make someone uncomfortable if I was to show up and in my full power and coach people to healing and transformation like I know I'm able to? Then how would that change my role in life?
Yeah, yeah, that's rich. Yeah, you can see how personalized it gets, even just one level down the ladder. What was the second question
Oh,
that you had?
okay. The second question is how it connects to the nervous system and identity patterns.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, we've sort of touched on identity in that sense of how do I define myself and what do I believe I'm supposed to be. So if I'm, Evan guy who has it all together and is supposed to be the smartest guy in the room and has all the answers, it's a high pressure, right? And so that sense of identity and needing to live up to that is going to create all sorts of reactions in the nervous system, in the body, and make this a threatening undertaking to actually accept money or time or whatever for other people's services where you are the, coach. And also, yeah, other identities, things we threw out in those last examples are forms of identities, right? Like I'm the guy no one takes seriously. If that's in your childhood pattern or something else, then you're going to be like fighting to be heard or have a sort of what's the point? Why even bother? And that's actually behind your procrastination, your sense of not really offering a service. It's really because behind you is no one's going to listen to me anyway. And so the nervous system is anticipating rejection. It's anticipating I'm going to post something and no one's going to care. So my job is to protect you from that happening because who wants to feel rejection? And no one's going to sign up to work with you anyway. So why put yourself through a completely pointless exercise?
Or that inner narrative. That'll stop you, won't it? Try to get out there, put yourself out there with that narrative running in your
Yeah.
head. Yeah, the nervous system is, in my work, it's that the inner child is synonymous with the nervous system, lives in the body, And so your nervous system is your body. And so it can show up in so many ways, but essentially it's I mean it's not just it's obvious anxiety is obvious, right? Oh, I feel anxious. My nervous system is on guard. But it's so much more subtle than that because it can show up really reasonable. Like I can tell you a really common thing that happens to people I work with is that say it's their first client ever or something like that. Or it's even just a like a discovery call. It's not even a client yet. And they get it booked and all of a sudden they're like, oh crap. You know, and so they're thinking of like all the ways that well maybe they won't show up or maybe they'll cancel or oh they really want to get on the call, but also at the same time they're terrified to get on the call. And they may even make excuses, you know, and sabotage themselves, like not get on the call. Or they might get on the call with the person, but be so scared to actually make an offer that they sabotage the process of explaining what you do and how you can help someone and then make them an offer to work with them. And then it doesn't go well. And then they have well, I'm not good at selling. I'm just not good at this. I need to learn more. Oh, now I need to go learn about how to have discovery calls before I can get on more discovery calls. And so you see how it's really sneaky. And it's the nervous system trying to keep you safe from actually getting a client, which is what you said you wanted.
Yeah, and the framework that you were presenting earlier, and you talk about it in your work a lot, like the different sort of toxic rules or dynamics with children, and that expectation to be perfect out at the gate. These different things where, well, yeah, you're not probably going to be great at your first intro call, but if that's not acceptable to you, if the pressure is high, the stakes are high, then it's you're not going to allow yourself the bandwidth to be like, yeah, this is a process I'm learning, right? I'm going to show up, I'm going to do my best. I might not make an offer. I did that many times, right? Because it's not natural. It's an unnatural thing. Like meaning babies don't just know how to do this, right? Humans don't know how to set up a business and like make offers to people and do these different things. They are skills you have to learn. But if your relationship to learning is I should already know how to do it, I shouldn't have to do it. I expect it should just come to me if I process my own trauma. Like that's not going to make you magically know how to run a business, right? So you need that bandwidth to allow yourself to learn these new skills.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, that comes back to the idea that if you won't even let yourself take the first steps to even just get some clients, you know, so that you can start practicing, you can start getting the experiences of success with clients, with calls, then you won't be able to move forward into the part where you're learning more about the business. But first, you got to have something to have business about, which is having
Yes,
clients.
exactly.
Let
Well,
me get to the third question.
yeah, please.
Okay. The what we're gonna well, it's not a question, it's what we're exploring. What it takes to move forward with clarity, presence, and confidence.
Yeah, and it takes a combination of things. I mean, we would love to be able to say, well, this is you just do this and it's done. But I assume people watching this have, like you said, they've gone through some sort of training themselves. They know it's a little more nuanced than that. But clarity is something I alluded to at the beginning. You do have to think through it a little bit. So there is the emotional work, which we've been alluding to a lot, which is like there may be, pains, past experiences where the nervous system is on guard and wants to protect you from even coming up with an idea. That is something to work through and process through. That's its own art form, that's kind of what both of our channels are all about. And then there actually is a tactical element to it. Like you do have to arrive at a conclusion of this is what my offer is. So, because if I book at an intro call with you and I'm like, well, what do you offer? Like, what does working with you look like? What do we work on? And you're just like, well, you'll have your dream life. I'm like, that's not going to work for me. I need some specifics. I need like, what do you do? What do you teach? Who, like, do you literally teach everyone? Because people are like, well, it works for everyone. It's like, if I can you really take someone who has a 9-figure business and take it to 10? Like that's different than someone who, is like severe complex trauma. There's just no way that you are the person for everyone. And the more defined you are, because there probably is something you offer, or there could be, for example, something that is beneficial to both 9-figure CEO and person of with complex trauma. If you're clear on what that is, there's going to be some kind of breathing technique. Teaching them the basics of tapping, for example, could be useful. But if you're like, I have a specialty in complex trauma, I grew up in a home that looked like this, I know this landscape, I really specialize in helping. I'm not saying you have to specialize, but just the difference in that conversation. Like, neither Nico or myself can tell you what your life experience is and where your particular strong points are. But to get clarity is to take time to actually investigate that. What is my unique experience? We have in the workshop, we'll put a link to the free workshop we have. There's a whole section about that, right? Dismissing your own life experience. Instead, embracing, well, what have I been through? What are the things where I can say, well, I've lived through that. I would love to help someone who's in the middle of that, horrible divorce. Tell them the things, show them the things I wish someone had shown me. Someone who's trying to, whatever, start a coaching practice. Oh, I've got all this great information. I know how to process through some of the emotion around that. So it's a self-discovery process, which involves what can I offer, and then putting that into concrete words and language, which is the part no one wants to do, because it takes some work to literally, you have to in some form be able to say to someone, this is what I'm offering, this is what you will do with me. And we don't like to do this. So I like the combination of using the emotional work to work through the discomfort of doing that and then still doing it, not trying to tiptoe or tap dance around it.
Yeah, because it's true. I mean, nobody really wants to sit. Some people might. Most people don't want to sit down and do that, especially when it seems like it should be so easy. Like, okay, you know, uh, identify your client avatar and who
Hmm.
are they and what do they look like and what's their problem. But to actually have to go back into your own experiences and own your life journey and your turning points and what you healed and how you overcame a challenge, it does take more work and more introspection. And that is actually where then the nervous system blocks us. It blocks us from wanting to do that and owning it and showing up. But it really is, it's worth the effort, and it really is the only way you can get clear about who you serve. And when you do that, like you said, you have to have the clarity to can speak to that person directly and they can hear you. And then an offer that is very clear. So you can say, hey, I solved this problem. Here's my program. I'd like to work with you. It's pretty simple once you get to that point. But before that, there is some work you have to do.
Yeah, and you do have to be willing to define yourself in some way, which is also very uncomfortable for some people. And define yourself in a clear and personal way, right? Like, EFT tapping facilitator is not great as a definition, right? That's just a technique. There's 100,000 of them probably graduating like next year, right? Like, it's not bad, but that's literally just somebody might search for EFT tapping, and then you're just someone who does it. There's no real clarity in that. That's just a technique you do. Just sort of like saying, well, I play bass. I mean, yeah, there's okay, if I need a bass player. But again, Chicago Symphony is not going to hire me. that's not the gigs I'm going to get. Right? There's like subsets within subsets where, like, yeah, call Evan because he's the guy that does that music particularly well, or this really fits into his strengths. And so the more I can own that and define it, And you're not putting yourself in a box. You're making yourself a signpost of some clarity, because people understand like it's not literally the only music I can play is these sort of specialized things. In some ways, my definition is that I am a bit of a chameleon. I'm kind of a person you can hire who can play a lot of these disparate things, and that actually is my unique strength and gets me some of the gigs I get in New York. But even that is a definition, right? I'm a good chameleon. I can like float in and out of these different styles. I can play acoustic bass, electric bass. So with the coaching stuff, there's distinctions in it, right? There's like the parts work and the non-fixing yourself approach, right? People who are chronic self-fixers, perfectionists, needing to like control everything and are really hard on themselves and have been through 20 different tools and processes trying to fix everything. That's something I lean into. That's a bit of a definition of like my, I mean, I don't even like the brand, I guess, which is, it's, to speak in sort of marketing terms, but it's not calculated. It's not like I sat there and thought, oh, this is a good market. It's just who I am. It's what I went through. It's the language I speak. It's the people I naturally seem to attract and gravitate towards me, because I'm talking about more nuanced things that those types of people have often gone through. And then you identify that and you notice these patterns and you say, okay, these are my strengths. And artists do that, right? It's like this is my style. You get a style. People, Dolly and these people, they're not just like, oh, they just do everything. It's what makes them them.
Yeah, and I think that that's true that when you get that clarity, that's when you can be really present. Because if you're clear in yourself, then you can show up and you can be more present because you're not constantly, trying to figure out what to say or who to
Yeah,
be, how to show up. And then that does lead to confidence because you start to show up, you're present, you know what you're talking about, you know who you're speaking to, and then you start getting feedback, you start getting encouragement from people responding or whatever it is, and then you start to gain confidence. And that is how you shift into the confidence. You can't just make yourself feel confident. You can't just be like, affirmations, I am confident, and say it all day
right,
long if underneath you're confused.
right. Because it's not based on um, like real data and feedback and points. So if someone books an intro call with me at this stage, it's like I've watched your videos. They already resonate. They kind of know what I'm about, right? That's such an incredibly different conversation than like someone going, "Well, who are you? What do you do?" And I'm like, and they're a pro athlete or something, and they want something completely different than what I do. So it doesn't help you to be vague. It's much easier to have quote unquote confidence when I'm talking to somebody who speaks my language and they already like, yeah, I've seen what you do. I liked your video about X, Y, or Z, or your web page really spoke to me. It's like, cool. I know you. You're my people. Like,
Mm.
let's get into it. The
Yeah, then that
confidence
builds
shows up.
the trust. Like there's trust and rapport there already, and then you don't have to do as much build trust building on calls.
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The call is that they're already interested because you've spoken to them already. Because if you think about your own personal life, like, would you ever go to a website for some company that was kind of vague? It's like, we promise you life transformation. Are you really going to call them? Be like, well, I'm interested in life transformation. Like, no, no one has time to do that. It's got to grab you and be like, I love, like you said, your first coach. I love her content. You weren't just Googling random coaches and booking intro calls.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I feel like that that whole idea of people, you mentioned about being in a box. I can tell you that I've worked with a lot of people that didn't fit into my niche that I had defined, but they still ended up coming to me anyway because they enjoyed my content for whatever reason, and then they reached out to me, and and it still felt like a fit. I would work with them. So it doesn't limit you on who you can work with to
Mm-mm.
create that definition and to speak to a specific person with a specific problem. It doesn't hurt you at all.
Yeah, because it's the only way to really answer the question we started with, which is who am I to coach someone? It's you are answering that question through introspection, through a process. Like I said, I put a link in the chat and I'll put it in the description for our workshop that goes through that a little more. That's free. And even doing what I just did there, right, is something I would have forgotten to do 6 months ago. To even mention, oh, we have a free workshop, right? Like these are skills that take some time, and they come from practice, but also knowing investigating who am I to coach. And it's like you said, it's not a false bravado. Okay, well, just tell myself I'm super confident. No, it's literally, well, who am I? Well, what have I been through? Well, who could I help? Who represents, like you said, me a few years ago? I would know what to say to that person. Right? These naturally lead to more confidence because you've literally been there. And so this is very different. At least the way Nico and I approach it is very different than like, well, we're going to do some market research and say, well, there's a lot of moms who are looking for tapping. You should go conquer that market. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that, but that's a very different mindset than like the self-discovery. Like, I'm not going to specialize in moms. Like, I don't even have kids, so I'm not going to specialize in dads. I work with dads, but that's not like the forefront of what I'm putting forward.
Yeah, totally. I tell you what else happens is like, you know, like for instance, narcissistic trauma is a niche I've been in for a while, but before I was saying that was my niche, I was actually, people were coming to me with narcissistic trauma and describing, just telling me, describing their pain and stuff. And I'd be like, whoa, that sounds like, this. And what I realized was that then when I started owning that, um, I realized that like people would talk to me, and there's just you cannot lie about your experience. If you've had a very specific experience, whatever it is, and narcissistic trauma is a very specific experience, and someone's describing to you what they're going through, you're going to be like, "Oh, I know exactly
Mm-hmm.
what you're talking about. I know what that feels like. I know like all the nuances of it." You can't make that up. And someone can feel it when they talk to you. So you can't fake it. And who would you want to work with? Like if you had, um, I'm trying to think of something more general than narcissistic trauma, but and I really liked Evan's metaphor of the guy that did surgery on your knee. But I mean, with personal development, it's a little different. But would you let's just say you're going through like a really nasty divorce, and specifically it's all nasty around like custody and the kids and stuff. Would you want to work with someone who, hasn't ever been divorced? Or maybe someone who's got a degree in law or something, I don't know. Or someone who's actually gone through a really messy divorce that experienced directly, like you said, the nuances of what you're currently in pain around. They understand what you're thinking, and not just what you're thinking, but how it makes you feel. Like it's the result of like the pain you're going through, how it actually makes you feel and how you start to see yourself. And that, when you're describing that, your ideal client hears it and they say, "Oh my God, are you in my brain?" And that's when you know, like, you've really got it down. You're speaking directly to them.
Yeah, and like in the thumbnail, it says like, "Am I a fraud?" You, by definition, will not be a fraud if you're speaking about your actual life experiences. You don't have to worry. Oh, it turns out Evan's lying. He never actually played the bass. Like that would be weird. That would be a problem, right? But you don't have to worry about anyone doing that. Just be honest. You don't. There's so many people in need of so many things that you don't have to invent a story. You don't have to say I'm a fully enlightened master who can show you how to do anything in the world. Just be upfront about this is what I have to offer. Demonstrate it, and then you can't be a fraud in things that you're demonstrating. And that's what's so great about the internet in some ways, right? Like YouTube, for example, you can go on either of our channels and watch us do a process or watch us coach. It's like, there it is. We're not, you don't have to like kind of wait and see. You can present evidence that this is what I can do. I mean, I guess with AI, you can kind of you could get away with some things now, right? But like I could pick up that bass right now, plug it into the interface and like show you
Uh-huh.
or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I do want to leave everyone with, just to make sure I say this, is if you are on the fence and if you are sort of doubting yourself about whether you can do this, I want you to think about yourself and go back to a time when you were in a lot of pain around whatever it was you were going through. And think about how much you could have used someone's help and how what that would have meant to you if someone could have, come to you and say, look, I know exactly what you're going through, and I can get you like across this chasm without falling and crashing at the bottom and having to figure out how to climb back up on your own. Like I can get you across, I can throw the bridge out. And would you not have given anything or paid anything to have that kind of help? I want you to think about that. Like that's what you can offer someone. Like that's a power of your personal experience.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. I think we've covered that question pretty well. If anyone's watching the replay, you can leave us some comments because we're going to be doing a couple more of these, exploring some more of these common questions. But also, if you leave some comments or leave some questions, we can follow up with those on our next live, which is going to be Saturday, this coming Saturday, which is like 5 days from now, the 21st of February at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And we will be talking about, you may have heard the phrase shiny object syndrome, a sort of chronic, maybe I need to get on TikTok, maybe I need to start a YouTube channel, without that foundation, that chasing of what's going to be the next thing to fix me. So that's what will be the main event topic. So you can also feel free to leave comments now or questions about that, and we will hit those up. Also, in that link in the chat in the description, if you want to go through any of that workshop where we take you through this sort of clarity, confidence process, you can explore that as well and bring any questions to any of the live streams as a response to anything you've observed in that process. Great. Yeah, Marlene, we're looking forward to seeing you there as well.
Thanks. Yes. Thanks, Marlene. Everyone that's watching, thank you so much. Please do leave us questions because that helps us next time to know what you want to know about and we can talk about it.
Great. So yeah, explore that question, who am I? There is an answer to it. And there are people who could use your help today, really. Even if you have a formal certification or not. There's someone in the world who needs your help. So awesome. Thanks, Nico. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. Bye.